Hey, there's Jeremy, and I want to walk you through the process of getting this JavaScript development environment set up on your computer. I've talked a lot about it. I've shown its benefits. You're convinced or you're getting convinced. But what I'd like to do is get you started if you haven't actually done this yet. There is a little bit of a setup. It'll take a few minutes to do. You have to install some things. But once you have the baseline set up, then you can use this environment over and over and over again to build any widget for your FileMaker files. So let's get started. The first place you should go when you're working through this is this JS in FM site. I'm working on this documentation site to help you with everything about this. This covers both the development environment and the JavaScript that we can use in FileMaker. There are two places you want to go to start. First of all, you can read about the JavaScript development environment here and how it solves a lot of great problems. You can also look at how to prepare your machine, and that's what I'm going to do today with you. So we click on that, and this is the before you begin section where you need to walk through this. Again, this is only one time, but to make sure that your machine is ready to go. So first things you need to do, of course, is have FileMaker 19.3 or higher. We're going to need to download VS Code. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the download section so that you can download that. Go ahead and download that. And then you need to have terminal, which we already have on our machines, or command prompt. You also need to sign up for a GitHub account. So click on that and go to GitHub and sign up. So have a GitHub account and be logged in. Okay. Next thing we need to do is install a couple of under the hood services. These are just going to run on your machine that will make kind of the magic happen of the development environment. We have Node.js and Git. Node.js is here. It's a simple download. So you would click on this to download the app. Use this LTS version. I forget what it stands for, but it's the one that's recommended for most users because the button says it. All right, so you've downloaded that. Downloading Node will also install a process called Npm Node Package Manager that we'll be using throughout this time and to get the environment set up. So you've got that. Let's see what's next. Now we need to install Git. So open that up. And this is a little bit more confusing because you actually have to download something else before that. So click on your operating system. In this case, there's a couple options here, but I'm going to pick the first one. This is the one that I've been using with people. You first install Homebrew. So go to that and install that. And you simply do that by clicking on this homepage, clicking on the code here, going back to terminal and pasting that in and letting that run. Okay, then you go back to here, and in your terminal also, after the install of that Homebrew has happened, you can type in the next thing. Let me quit this. Type in the next thing, which was brew install git. So brew install git, and that will download git and install it on your machine. You might have to do this with a sudo, depending on your level of permissions. So there you go. You've installed that. Great. Pretty simple. Okay, so this I have everything I need, and now I'm ready to go. This is the one-time thing. You won't have to do any of this from now on. We just need this as before we begin. So now let's go into the in-depth process. The process of getting the GitHub repository, this environment onto your machine, is documented here. So we first start by grabbing the development environment. That is at GitHub. It's on my Integrating Magic account, and it is a public template, which means you can use this template, copy it over into your own account of GitHub, and use it every time you build a widget. In fact, that's what I do as a business. When people ask me to build them widgets, I create a new repository from this template, a new set of files, and I'll show you that in a minute. So we simply click on use this template, give it a name, whatever you want, make it public or private, doesn't matter unless you're doing something that's for a client, you may want to keep that private. and then hit create repository from the template. What this is doing is it's grabbing all of the code in that template, all of the files, and bringing it onto your machine, so that into your account, so that you can now use it. It's basically a fresh slate. It's a template, and it comes with everything you need. It comes with a FileMaker file and some JavaScript and some HTML files, which we'll get into in as we do the trainings or whatever. But this is just getting it down to our machine. So now it's in our environment, in our account, and we can now clone this repository to our own machines. To do that, we hit the code button and copy this URL. All right. Then we need to go to VS Code and have nothing open except for the Get Started screen. Probably that's what it is for you. And so to clone this repository, to bring down all of the code from the GitHub, bring it down onto your machine, and create a connection between the two is a pretty simple process. VS Code makes it nice and easy. The cloning process, again, brings it down onto your machine, but also forms a connection so that the changes that you make on your machine can eventually be pushed up to the GitHub, so your changes are stored. And there's a lot of good reasons for that to happen. I'm going to clone Git repository. This is in my Start section. If it's not there, then you can press Command-Shift-P to open up the command palette and type in clone. Either path will take you to this, where you paste in the URL. It will immediately ask you, where do you want to put these repositories? I put them in one folder called JS Work. These are all the ones that I've been working on. I put this repository in this parent folder. I don't put it in anything else. I want it to be as top level as I can. This process of cloning will create an entire folder. These are all different repositories that I have cloned from that template. So I'll select the repository location as JS Work, and it will then do the process of bringing down all the code. In the top bottom right, you'll see the open. Click open, and there you go. So now our file explorer, yours might be on the left, mine's on the right, just based on my preference, is a list of all the folders inside of that repository. We need to do two more things. First thing we need to do is open up the terminal by pressing Control-tilde or going up to the terminal menu in the menu bar and hitting New Terminal. Here we do the npm install, and this just installs this repository. So the files that I have given you through this template are just there, but we need to do this install process because this install process will grab all of the JavaScript libraries that we need to make this work and put it into this folder, into this repository. This dev dependencies object here describes all of the packages, all of the JavaScript libraries that are needed, and it will download all those and put all of those in this node modules folder that was newly created right here. Okay, so that's you just have to do that. We do that all the time. In fact, we'll do a lot of npm installs in this as we build widgets. All right, so now we have that. We can type in npm start. What the npm start does is it creates a development server, and it serves this code to that server so that you can start to work with the HTML and the CSS. This is what web developers do all the time to get to do their work. They start up a development server, they make some code, write some code, they change, they save it, they write some code, they save it, and then they can see the changes in the browser. We're not going to use the browser, we're going to use a FileMaker file and then a web viewer object. That FileMaker file is here. It's called jsdev.fmp12, and you can open that simply by revealing in Finder and opening that file. Once that file is open, this is now connected to that development server. The script load web viewer, you're welcome to read through the script. It's pretty simple, but in this development mode, line 6 is looking for this URL, and it's getting the HTML and the CSS from there. So if I go back to VS Code and make a change in the index.html and say, I am ready, and I save it, go back to FileMaker, that has already been updated. All right, so now you are set with the development environment. I strongly encourage you to practice this many times because we're going to be doing this process a lot. Refer back to the documentation if you get lost in the steps, and just do it 3 or 4 times so that you're used to it. But this is the development environment. Please try it. Get started. Make sure that you're ready to go. If you're doing the training with me, make sure you're ready to go before the training. If at any time anybody who is watching this needs help with this, please ping me. My link is down below. Be glad to get you up and running with this. All right, we'll talk to you later. Thanks.